Paisano.
Welcome to the multiverse.
What's up in the multiverse, dude?
Man, out here making some moves, getting things done. I was just spreadsheeting it up earlier, which usually doesn't get me out of bed in the morning. Important. I've certainly grown in my appreciation of numerical manipulation, forecasting, spreadsheeting over time, but I've been doing a lot of work lately, and I'm just jumping into it, by the way, but I've been doing it a lot lately. I've had a couple of team members that have been elevated and were not hired as management, but are stepping into management kind of positions. And something about that leverage where, like, the same task, if you're going to do it and you have to, that you have to do 100% of what's involved, has a very different flavor than being involved if you know you only have to do 20%. Somebody's going to carry the next 80% and you really trust them to do a great job. So I've got some wind in my sales in a couple of key areas where we were lagging due to having some team members step up. So that's really energizing and invigorating for me, man.
That's huge. Yeah. So you can take on more or maybe better tasks, and then also just take stuff off your plate and gives you confidence, right?
Yeah. I think I can commit to some tasks that might have been unpleasant otherwise, knowing that somebody else is there's going to be that baton handoff, so it's energizing.
Nice. What do you think about the fact, like, I look at it like sometimes if someone maybe isn't even ready, or I'm not sure if they're gonna sink or swim, it's like, this is the person, like, I'm not getting rid of this person, and this person's important to me, and so we're gonna sink or swim by you, and usually they rise to the occasion.
Oh man, I love seeing that. I'm so with you. Seeing people step up where it's uncertain, it's not obvious they can do it, but you have that feeling. I feel like ownership is attitudinal, not skill set driven, and the skill set competencies can grow when the desire for it is there. So
totally.
Yeah, so with you.
Have you dived into leadership strategy and tactics yet?
Oh, nope. I bought it, have not started. Why don't you bring me up to speed and kind of pre-sell it for me so I can hit play on that one?
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit of pre-story. So in my company, I think I told you this, I started causing a lot of problems in my sales and marketing department in particular. Like they came to me and were like, hey, we don't think, and these are like two of my like key people that I thought I had a great relationship with. Like, we don't feel like you take our ideas seriously. We, you're constantly changing things. One of them told me, like, you made a huge shift. I had made a big shift on a strategic decision, like, out of nowhere. And they were like, I just like, I don't feel confident. Like, I was like, what do you like? Do you know what you're doing type thing? And, I took it all in, and, I was like, yeah, like, if you guys are telling me this, like, I take it, it's a real thing. So,
which is cool, by the way, that they feel the space to tell you that. Cause let's be honest, that's happening at plenty of companies where it's just not being said.
Yeah. 100%. And it kind of had to, like, business slowed down a little bit because of COVID and other issues, not just COVID, but we slowed down a bit. And so everyone was kind of stressed and weren't hitting targets. And I was like, I was adding to it. But leadership strategy and tactics was super timely because it has a bunch of stuff in it. But some of the main things that I got the most out of it in this situation was leading from the back. So letting them create the plan. The problem was I was ramming the plan down their throat. And when they don't, but the thing is, they were also in charge of growth. So, like, if they didn't hit sales numbers or marketing lead numbers, it was on them, but yet I was forcing the plan down their throat. And so, Jocko Willenick talks about how it's so important that you let them create the plan. If you have the right people, they should be creating the plan. If you see holes in their plan, a really top level leader is going to be able to, like, talk them through that and ask questions so that they figure out, like, the holes themselves. But that was one really big thing where I was like, yeah, like, it doesn't even make sense. How can you be in charge of growth or leads or whatever, but I'm throwing the strategy at you,
I
So
love that, man.
yeah, that was a big one.
That I think maybe I mentioned on this last episode. I don't know if I did. I'll mention it again because it's worth repeating. A coach and mentor of Danny's I was talking to, and he framed this coaching question of when you're interacting with someone, that it's okay if they're not hitting target, they're not up to snuff, and there's some remedial conversations happening, that when they say, well, I don't know what's wrong, like I don't know what the gaps are, you don't have to give them the answers. It's okay to say, if you don't know, you may not be a fit for this role. Like if you're not capable of generating the answers without my hand holding and me being the genius and you being one of my 1,000 helpers, that maybe this just isn't a fit. Now, obviously that's not at all stages without the company, but certainly folks in more of a leadership capacity, they need to be the ones coming up with the ideas. Dude, I'm dealing with that right now. The thing I was just telling you about that spreadsheet I'm working on, part of me is like, take it all the way. The other part of me is like, you know what? You 80%ed it. Hand it off. Tell them what needs to happen. You know, months need to be broken into weeks. It needs to be tied to the bigger forecast, blah, blah, blah. I think I'm going to go that route. So thank you. You just saved me some effort.
For sure, man. And the co-creation part, like that doesn't mean I'm completely out of the planning. I'm just a member of the team now. And so like, you know, I give ideas and, you know, I usually let them like take the ball. I'll use language like, all right, here's my 80%, or here's some ideas, but like do what you think is best. Now, if it's a very high level strategic, like for instance, we were picking our kind of like our USP, like what's like the one sentence kind of like, what's our value prop? Like, what do we do in a nutshell? Like that's really important to me. And I have like strong feelings about that. And so I was like really involved in that process and like I had them tweak it a bunch, but like everything else executing that, like, unless I feel really strongly about something, I don't change it. Just because I'd rather have them own it, see the results. And if they work, great. And if they don't work, that's also feedback for them. And it lets them sink or swim on their own.
That's what you and I are doing, man.
Yeah. How so?
Oh, you broke up for a minute there. Did you say how so?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this feedback that's all we have, you know, we make decisions and feedback comes in and we can either use it and adapt or not. I was reading last night about the concept of the Dunning-Kruger effect, which describes the situation where you're incompetent, but you think you're competent, which is actually dramatically worse than just being incompetent. The lack of self-awareness can compound the struggle. And so in my life, a lot of my progress has looked like letting go of what I thought I knew, being okay, knowing less, adding some pragmatism to my life, but also just realizing that there's progress and gains that I want and I don't have it, which either means that I can't have it and I'm capped out, or there are things that I'm doing and changes that I need to make. So mistakes, errors, revelations, those just bring me closer to my goal. So yeah. I want to see that willingness, and I want to make space for other people to have that willingness as well, which means that it can't be this heavy-handed, like kind of guilt-laden disappointment when people make mistakes.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting. Like it reminds me of beginner's mind, where one of the big reasons I have a lot of confidence right now is we started working with this consultant, and she's for like my leadership team to help kind of develop them and help them build, like optimize the people and the processes. So she actually just runs EOS level 10s and does quarterlies, but she like also helps with systems. So if there's like places to plug in, but anyway, super smart. It's funny, like she has an MBA, right? She's smart. Like she's been around, like she does this like because she enjoys helping startups now. Like she's like done with her career. And she's like telling us about, I don't remember what, I think it was like about reviews, like our operations manager responds to reviews. And she's like, yeah, I think that's more of like Adam's job. And Adam was like, who's like our sales guy in marketing. And he's like, yeah, but here's why, Gail, like this doesn't make sense. And he like, let me explain like why like this works in our company. And then she's like, yeah, but I still feel like it's something like you'd be better at doing. And he's like, I wasn't clear enough. She's like, no, I heard you. Like, I understand what you're saying. Like, but we think, and when before we hired her, we didn't hire her for level 10 meetings running them because we're like, oh, we got this. We just need you for the quarterly. And now that she's come in, we're a mess. We're like, we had 2 people leave. We're like, oh, we need help. She's like, oh, I thought you guys had it all together. And like, it wasn't until like, just like seeing someone that operates at a higher level coming in and like blowing us up.
Oh,
Did it actually like become self-evident that no, we don't know what we don't know as much as we think we know. And I told everyone on the team, like, we really need to see beginner's mind when we're working with her. We don't have to take everything that she says and do everything she says, but like, we obviously don't know what we're doing. Like, you know, we had 2 people leave and we're like a mess. So like, we're obviously not like where we need to be. Like, you shouldn't have 2 people leave and it's like a scramble, right? So
did you feel like those things were unrelated or related to her showing up?
What do you mean?
Like the people departing and feeling like it's chaotic. Like, do you feel like that her presence kind of forced out some underperformers, or?
Oh yeah, good question. No, it was unrelated. One, we had to let go just because they weren't working out. They just weren't, they just weren't able to do the job as well as we needed. And then the second one was just like sudden. It was just like, hey, I have to like move out of state like today. See ya. Like, we're like, okay. So yeah.
I love that you're using that resource though, man. That's really inspiring what you're describing. Oh man, that's like super relatable to me. So EOS, let's park on that. Hopefully if you're listening to this, you have some concept of what that is. I'm just going to assume that's the case. Basic framework for running your company, meeting cadence, etc. The other day I was on the phone with one of my business partners and I said that I think we're probably using 60% of it. So we're not doing 5x5s. We're not using GWC, People Analyzer, etc. So there's that, but then there's also like the stuff that we are using. I think we could tighten up specifically in the ongoing weekly level 10s. Like, what's changed? Like, what about that has changed or improved?
Yeah, totally. So we were like, no, we don't need anyone for level 10s. We're like, we banged through all of our issues. Everything's great and no issues. So the biggest change is it's by the book. Like, you actually have to, like, when you set it to do or a rock, it actually has to make sense. Like, we'll be like, oh, blow up the marketing department, or like, like use this like jargon, and it like doesn't make any sense. So like, and I've always told my operations manager, Dave, he always wants to speed through all the issues. And I'm always like, no, if we get like one good issue and really solve it well, it's a successful day. So now he's kind of having to like get used to the new norm, which is like, we do 1 or 2 issues like in a 90-minute meeting. Like, and it's really cool because what we used to do is we'd say, here's the issue. Me and Dave would like talk more than anyone. And then Adam would talk because he likes to talk. Then like probably the 2 smartest people, Natalia and Grace, like would talk the least, like, you know what I mean? And so we would just monopolize it, come up with the issue. Now what you do is when someone brings an issue, like let's say I bring the issue, I state the issue, and then everyone gets to go around one at a time. So like now Grace, who doesn't talk that much because she's kind of reserved, gets to talk for every issue. And it's real. And it's like really like when people that don't talk a lot talk, they tend to say profound things. So everyone gets to talk. And then the person that brought the issue gets to ultimately decide what to do. So they go, okay, I've heard everything. I've heard all you guys out. What are you going to do, Steve? This is your issue. What are you going to do? And you go and you solve it. So,
wow.
Yeah. It's like,
interesting.
There's a lot of nuance to it. Just discipline. Like Jocko talks about it in his book, like taking out the trash, like the little stuff, like, she'll make us read our to-do at the end and make us read the rock completely. And it's just like something like we weren't doing it. She was like, hey, I'm not going to work with you guys if you don't like, there's a reason you do this. Like you stay disciplined, you read it out so that way anyone can hear it and make sure it's accurate. And if it ever needs to be updated. So it's just like little things like that are just making the meeting, I think, just a lot more effective.
Tell me when you think about this. Do you think that with something like EOS, there's danger in the middle ground? Meaning EOS isn't about telling you about what decisions to make. It's just a framework. But if you adopt the framework all the way, you get full benefit. And if you adopt it, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think I've been in danger of bastardizing it and like saying I'm using it in name. So I'm getting like the badge and the sticker and the confidence of like, yeah, we use it. But it's easy to be sloppy and to gloss over certain things. So that's I want to get a name and some details offline because I'm interested in stepping it up. And okay, another thing is it just leadership for you or the whole company? Who's in that level 10?
So it's just leadership in this level 10.
How many bodies?
There is 5.
Okay, so that still is enough for a healthy discussion.
Yeah. But to what you said, I agree. So like people that tell me they implement on their own, 40% effectiveness, like if that. There's no way you do more than 40% if you're implementing on your own. It's just like there's no way, because even if you're the most analytical person, the benefit of having an outsider hear like everyone's BS and like just like see what's going on, like if they have any business acumen, they can easily like help navigate the conversation. Like I remember one quarterly, I decided I was just going to run it. So I was like, dude, we've been doing like this. We had this, let this other guy go just because he was great, but we had like done 3 years with him. We felt like, let's move on.
New blood.
Yeah. And so the quarterly, I ran it and it was like the worst meeting. I ran the quarter, like I had the EOS framework and like, but I'm not good at running meetings and it's just not my unique ability.
It's also just like the objectivity. When you somebody reporting your BS, that to me is a ton of value. So being around somebody else that is not value to me. Did I cut out there?
Yeah, sorry, man. Say again.
Yeah. Being around somebody that is not invested in rationalizing and enabling my own story has added a lot of value in my life.
Yeah, 100%. Well, give me an example.
Just, I think that what it looks like in an example is not coming to mind, but what it looks like in practice is when somebody says things like, is that true? Rather than like like nodding your head, like the default is like, I'm nodding the head to what you're saying. It's like, I'm going to take in that information. I'm going to assess it. If it makes true, I'll agree. But if not, I'm happy to push back. It's helpful to have somebody question my defaults because they're not shared between us.
Yeah. Is there anyone on your team that you butt heads with or that questions your default settings?
It depends on the organization, I'd say. So in one company, everybody is on the level 10 and it feels like it's working. In another company, everybody had been on the level 10 and we're shifting away from that and it felt like it wasn't working. In another company, it's just leadership. It's kind of hard to answer. I'd say it's all over the map, but there's got to be mutual respect. So it's a combination of somebody questioning the defaults, but it also being somebody that I respect. And to be honest, like for me, sometimes I think that can be challenging if it's a team member versus somebody that's outside and is like explicitly in that position.
Yeah, for sure. This other thing that Jocko's book really helped with, and I want to get your take on this, is taking out the trash and doing, so like he uses this example of, I don't remember the exact story, but essentially his boss was like taking out the trash and like he noticed that. And it kind of just means like you never, even as the leader, like you should get there first, leave last, take out the trash. Like not, it doesn't mean you take out the trash every day, but like you're not above taking the trash out.
Mm-hmm.
And I really lost sight of that, to be honest. Like and this is, I think, a danger of unique ability, in my opinion, is that I got so like, just like obsessed with like, oh, I every second of my day has to be like me just doing like the most optimal thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think true leaders do that. Like now I'm not knocking the system. I probably wasn't working it correctly, but like now I'm quick to jump in and be like, oh, I'll take that. Like, or I'll do this, or I'll wipe down the kitchen, or, you know, all like the little things. Cause I think great leaders do that. What do you think?
Yeah, you know, we had this conversation last time, and that what you said really is stuck in my head, partly because I am so invested in the idea of unique ability. One thing that came up for me is I think about capability expansion, how important that is. Dan Sullivan obviously talks a lot about that. So how do you think about cutting your teeth on new capabilities? Because that is like, I feel like you can stay in UA and expand your capabilities, but expanding your capabilities, I wouldn't say it's easy. Like, it should feel like there is exertion. Does that kind of jive with what you're thinking about UA?
Yeah. So you're saying like you personally getting more capabilities. So adding more tools to your personal tool belt or the team?
No, me personally, but in the process of me doing that, it doesn't look like always like easy, pleasurable work. Like, there's like strain and
Right.
exertion, you know?
Right. Well, I think in true unique ability, you wouldn't have that. Like, from what I understand, like you wouldn't, like, it's all stuff that you enjoy. Now there's a facet of it of like, it's maybe a new venture, like you're applying it to a new, you know, idea or something, to where like you're having to build like confidence and push through like commitment and courage. But that's how I always understood it. Like, if I'm not enjoying myself right now, I'm doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, I think I'm sure like Dan Sullivan could clarify some nuance there. The way I think about it is, let's say it was like dancing. I've never done it before. I'm horrible at it. But is this something that I have a fundamental disposition? Do I enjoy it even while I'm learning? And do I have a disposition toward this such that I know I could be good? That to me seems like an expansion, pursuing an expansion of my UA. Whereas if I try dancing and I enjoy it, but it's just obvious that I suck at this and I'm never going to be any good, you know, that may fall outside of expanding UA.
Yeah. So still a huge believer in UA. It's changed my life. It's just with a slight nuance now, at least in my head, that it's not always, if I'm doing something out of unique ability, if it's helping, if it's building up me as a leader or me showing leadership, that is my unique ability, because one of my unique abilities is leading. And so if it's taking out the trash, or if it's like doing, like, here's another example he gives, which I love. He says, if like people don't want to do something, say, I'll do it. And it hits their ego. Like people, so like we were kicking something around by email the other day, and I was like, I'll do it. Like, no one wanted to do it. I was like, I'll do it. I GWC it. You know, I get it. I want it. I got the capacity.
Nice.
And and I don't know. I just think that's what I would want my leader to do.
I love that, dude. I'm all about that. Yeah. Separate from UA just showing up. I think I talked at one point about this book. I look at the name of it. This book that was a aggregation of all of the most captain class. This guy looked at the most successful sports teams in all of history, across all sports, across all leagues, to try and understand what the common pattern was. And there were so many different variables and things it could have been, but what he distilled it down to was the captain, and not how athletic or talented the captain was, but what was the degree to which the captain was willing to throw his heart and soul and take one for the team and lead out front, and like through will and sacrifice, create investment on behalf of the rest of the team. That's really resonated with me. And I think that's what you're talking about. Just like saying, hey, you know, I'm taking ownership. I'm not beneath anything here because I'm not. So I love that. That totally resonates with me. Related thought. I've been doing some writing lately, and sometimes I'll start reading a book, not because I want to read the whole book, but like I've already read it. I just need a hit of that. So I was taking a hit of deep work by Cal Newport as I've been doing some writing, and hearing him talk about how challenging it is for creatives to do something like the act of writing. How does that, do you think, like relate to UA? Even if you're good at writing and it's your career and your passion, people get writer's block, right? Like the deep, hard cognitive work can feel kind of heavy, I think, for everybody.
Damn, that's a great question, man. I've felt that. And I don't know. So I thought about that in my particular case with songwriting, because I think like
Mm-hmm.
that's one of my unique abilities. But like to be honest, like some days I don't feel like it. And like I think if you go to Michael Jordan, he I would say it's fair to say his unique ability is basketball, but he probably didn't feel like hitting free throws like
Right.
after before and after practice,
Yeah.
you know? So that's really interesting. I think maybe the thing that ties this together is you find the spaces where you're free and in flow and passionate. That doesn't mean you're always going to be there, but those are like the things where you
Mm-hmm.
have those feelings and you operate. And then you understand that there's monotony and there's going to just have to be days when you don't feel like doing it. And especially with something like creativity, there's like it's a known thing that it's like the resistance he calls in the war of art. It's like the something that just tries to keep you from creating stuff. Uh, yeah. And you just push through it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man, that totally makes sense. When I think about Kobe or Jordan, I think about the commitment to the vision. They were clear on the vision and why it mattered, and that commitment carries you through being at low points and doing the things that you don't want to do. The idea of discipline to me is not enough. Like, oh, I'm going to do this for discipline because discipline's good for its own sake. I mean, I get that and I value discipline, but there's got to be a vision. There has to be a
Mm-hmm.
compelling thing that you are trying to manifest, that, you know, thing you are trying to become or a place you're trying to get. I would say a destination I'm trying to get, which is a proxy for the kind of journey I want to have that will lead me to become the kind of person that I want to be. That is what holds me in place. Related idea, the idea of a company vision. EOS kind of gets at that with the one pager VTO. You can look at this in a number of different ways. Cameron Harold, the guy that wrote Double Double, has a concept called the vivid vision, which is like a 6 or 7 page glossy high def doc that talks about what life in reality will look like 3 years from now and goes into great detail. There's some polish on it. Jeremy over at Rent Scale exposed me to this idea, and we did it, dude. And I'm so happy with the results. And it was not. I'm not just happy because it was like something we did for the team. It helped me get clear and taste and see what the future could look like. I want to send that to you, get your feedback on it, and I want to do that for my other companies. But have you done anything like that? What's your thoughts on like the importance of the fidelity of the vision?
Yeah, I love that. And I love this question because I'm wrestling with this right now. So EOS doesn't particularly, well, it talks about vision in the sense of vision traction organizer, but it doesn't say like the purpose from what I understand is the vision, because you have the measurables,
Mm-hmm.
but like, that's what I asked the lady we're working with. Actually, I was like, we have these measurables, but is that a compelling enough vision? Is like X
Mm-hmm.
million, like, is that compelling to the team? Is like 200 doors, like, like this stuff is not exactly. So, you know, some other book I came across, it was like, you got to have mission, vision, and purpose. Or I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. Yeah. So mission, vision, purpose. So we decided, so I did a lot of work and I'm like, okay, our mission, our purpose is life improved. That's what it's always been. It's like we improve lives by reimagining the property management experience. Our mission is being remarkable. So like, I think I got that like after hearing Jay Bear, like I was like, the only way we're going to like become what we want to become is if we're actually remarkable at what we do. And the vision is becoming our own biggest client. Like one day we want to become our own biggest client. And so, but I started to like waver on that. Cause I'm like, with the market right now, like we're not buying a bunch of property, like we're actually waiting, like,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was just like, is this like a compelling vision? And, I don't know. I know I hear as the job of a leader is to like have a compelling vision and make sure everybody knows it. And so I feel like I've kind of like failed a little bit as far as that in my company. And I'm kind of trying to like, cause I don't want to like, oh, here's the new vision. Like, oh, that vision was no, here's the new vision. Like, so I'm very cautious to not change things. Cause that's my impulse
Yeah.
is to just change
Yeah.
stuff. But like, I've already known from my talk with Adam, one of my key people, when he confided to me, he's like, dude, like, it made me think like, do we know what we're doing? Cause when you change like this big strategic thing. So I think it's important, but man, it's difficult. And then like Jason Goldberg told me about purpose. He's like, people always say, what's my purpose in life? He's like, dude, your purpose is going to change. Like mine's a verb. He's like, don't beat yourself up if it changes. Um, like it would be like trying on a pair of shoes when you're 6 and then you're like, oh, I have to buy new shoes. Like when I'm 10, it's like you grow out and your purpose changes. But that's a little bit of a rant on that, but I don't know. Like, so you got a lot out of the vivid vision. Do you think your team, like, did you roll it out to your team?
I did, and obviously a gap from perception versus reality. I'm not in their brain, but the reaction was fantastic. And I think that flavor wise, how this is different than the VTO is it's not just a bunch of metrics. I feel, and I think that especially if your team is like you, then I just have to assume that those numbers are not enough. Because I mean, like for me and you as the business owner, like there's a financial outcome associated with it. For the team member, increasing revenue threefold, like is that really materially going to make my life better? So this is very much non-numerical. This is all about day-to-day life, working here, experience, activities, how we show up in the community. I mean, I guess you could talk about whatever you want, but those are some things we focused on. So it's specific enough that it gives you a visceral, palpable feel of what reality would look like at that phase. And that to me was what made it feel way more real and specific and like something I could really interact with. But as with all of these exercises, you got to come back to it. If you don't come back to the forecast, if you don't come back to the VTO, this stuff is worthless. So we're planning on reviewing it quarterly.
Yeah. And if you don't go over it with the team, if they don't know it, that's the other thing is the team needs to know all this stuff. And so at our quarterly performance reviews, we ask them, we're like, hey, what's our mission, vision, and purpose? And it's funny, like half of the team gets it. And I'm like, that's on me. Like I'm a failure of that. Like you need to know this. Yeah. So can you give me a part out of the vivid vision that kind of like excited you, or maybe that you didn't realize you wanted initially, or like it just anything?
Yes. So it was collaborative between me and Jeremy. First we came up with some bullet points, and then we fleshed those out further, and we turned it into text, and then we did a couple passes on that, and then eventually it was all styled graphically. But one example of something that was unanticipated, the thing that comes to mind was facilitating wealth for the team through real estate investment. Nice. And I love that for two reasons. The first of which being, I don't know anything about that. Like I don't have a real estate investing background. The how is completely unknown to me, but given our proximity to the industry, to provide that opportunity of, rather than something like a 401k, maybe through that, but rather than just like passive investment, providing a vehicle for team members to accrue wealth by participating in real estate investment, that's really exciting. And you're even closer running a PM company. This is a sales training organization, but that just like really turned me on to be able to create that outcome for other team members. So that was one thing that really we hadn't discussed, but through this act, we made, we put it out there, man. Like you made a commitment. I've been hesitant in the past about talking about goals and planning, because as soon as you put it out there, you risk failure. Like it may not happen, but I've gotten more comfortable over time, even if I don't know the how, and I have no idea how to do that, which, was exciting to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And I think it is important to answer your question. I think there needs to be a compelling vision. And I think I've personally fallen short of that. I think OBC, becoming our own biggest client, is a great vision. I think I haven't drilled it home enough. I think because of like, we were kind of humming, and then like COVID happened. I'm like, shit, like, I'm going to I don't really want to buy anything right now. Like, let's see what happens. But that doesn't mean it's a long-term vision. It's a 10-year deal. So it's like, I could be doing a better job of saying, hey, here's where we're at. Here's why we're paused. Here's what I think we can do in the meantime. And here's why this is going to be great for our long-term success, and just talking about it more, because I can't remember the books, but certain books I've read about it, they're like, people should like be sick of hearing you talk about your mission, vision. Like it should be like so ingrained in their head that they're just like, like anyone could say it in their, like in their sleep. Right. And I think that's true, but it needs to become, you need to do it in a way that actually achieves the purpose, which is
Yes.
motivating them and showing what's in it for me, what's in it for them, and tying it back to the why. That's another thing with Jocko's book that was great. It's like, and it's like Simon Sinek has start with why, but there's a micro start with why. It's like each thing I give you, like one of the things that kicked off a big disagreement we had in sales and marketing was I told my marketing lady, I was like, hey, do this, like, just do this. Like, I just said, do this, like, make this change, do this. And it's kicked off this like argument. And she was like, well, if you would have told me like why you wanted that done, I would have been a lot more like, you know, like you didn't tell why. So it's like, people need to know why you want them to do things.
Man. Yeah. Well said. I feel like even people in their own roles, this is kind of arrogant, but I feel like I've brought people on in a certain role where I didn't have a respect for their chops. And I was like, do this. And it's going to be a pain in the ass for me to explain why, because you don't have no clue what's going on. And they've grown and elevated over time. And it was arrogant for me to do it then, but even more so now, like when they do have comprehension, it is disrespectful for me to just be like, just do it. You know, they're capable of grasping what's going on. They're more clued into the day to day. Like they're closer to what's happening than I am. So I'm just going to show up and just be like, you know, do it because I say so. It's a small jump between that and, you know, do it because I'm the boss. I'm the emperor here.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to something, it reminded me of what we were talking about earlier with dedicate. I think you said commitment, having commitment with like unique ability and pushing through things. I hate that word commitment. I've tried to use it. Like I've actually done a few weeks ago, I was like, okay, I commit. I can't remember what it was, but I literally wrote it. I'm like, I commit to doing like this and this. Like, I think it was like music or eating or something. I don't know. I literally like 2 days later, it like broke it. And cause I think commitment to me feels like a chain, like a ball and chain, but I wanted to share another word that I actually like a lot better. And it's dedication. And I got this random YouTube video, this marketing guy that helps musicians grow. And he said, I think it was like, get 100 Instagram followers, you know, I don't know. It was like some hack. And he's like, but here's what you have to do. And he's like, and here's the thing. This is easy, but 90% of you aren't going to do it because it's hard. He's like, and here's how everything works. You start off with something and you're like, oh, you're going to be like, this is easy. This is great. Then a couple weeks go by and you're going to be like, okay, this is kind of like staying consistent. You know, I'm going to stay consistent. Things are good. And then that's when everyone drops off. And then you get into the realm of dedication and you're like, okay, this sucks, but I'm dedicated to doing this. And I don't know, I just like a dedication, like hits my ego in a different way than like commitment. It's like, you're dedicated.
Well, dude, like nobody, it's funny as you say that, nobody ever says, well, you dedicated yourself, but I feel like people do say, well, you committed.
Right.
You know, it's like, is this going to come back to bite me in the ass? Like as like a ball and chain. I get what you're saying, like similar outcome, but like there's definitely some nuance there. I dig that.
Yeah. So I try to find little words that sometimes a little shift in a word can really change things, you know?
Yeah. I think about sometimes at churches, people have their kid like dedicated, like, you know, like take your kid to the temple and have them like dedicated to this cause. Like there is almost something like kind of like sacred about like the pact that you make with yourself. I've been thinking about that lately with some habits. So you and I did that challenge at one point. We did like a week-long challenge where I forget what you were doing, but I was exercising for a week just because I needed a little bit of a jump start. Gosh, where was I on that story?
I was doing no news, by the way.
No news. Yeah. Dang it. I lost where I was going with that.
It's all right. I remember that challenge. We should do another one because accountability partners, I actually did it. And that was actually really hard for me.
Yeah, I've done some accountability challenges before and got something out of it. Oh, here's where I was going with it. So I find it really helpful to get off of the commitment thing you're talking about, where it's like this self-imposed, like suffering. In so much as commitment implies suffering, it's almost, sometimes it's almost like as soon as you say that you're committed, it's like you just like take for granted, like therefore this must suck. You know, if I had to commit to do it, there must be some suffering involved, as opposed to like the mental paradigm I'm in now, particularly at least with diet, is like, I'm choosing to do this. And at any point, whenever I don't feel like it, I'm just going to stop. You know, I'm in control. I'm doing this. No one's making me. If I don't like it today, I'll just not do it. And with that as the subtext, I find it easier for me to be like, you know what? I choose to.
Yeah.
Of my own volition, just out of the abundance of the heart. It's what I want to do rather than feeling kind of I'm coerced into it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when you get married, it's like a commitment. That's why they call it a ball and chain, I think.
Which is horrible.
Yeah, which sucks because it's totally not that. I don't know. I think dedicating yourself to something is more noble. So I like that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff in life is just slogging through the stuff and doing stuff. Like everyone talks about doing stuff that makes you uncomfortable. Like all these high performing people like take cold showers and like, you know, there's something to that. I think like Tim Ferriss takes it overboard. He was saying like he like sleeps on the street, like every quarter, he like becomes homeless or something. Like like that's like stoic to the nth degree.
Good for him, baby. Good for him.
Yeah. And something that comes to mind for me for that was actually tuna fishing. So I just went tuna fishing with my dad and my two friends, and we went on a 1.5-day boat, and we had an awesome time, caught some big tuna. I always get kind of seasick. I don't puke usually, but it's always like, picture like a 1.5 days of like pretty severe nausea, like I'm just nauseous like the whole time. And I'm like,
wow.
Yeah. But then I'm like, I have another one scheduled right after. I'm like, I book another one. And I think the reason is like, there's a sense of accomplishment of going through that pain and like getting to fish and like being with your friends and like doing something manly that's probably like hits my ego or something. But I think there's something about like being uncomfortable that helps build you up, right? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's totally resonates with me. It's a proxy. So it's not to say that doing something uncomfortable has intrinsic value. That's a turnoff to me. But to say that the things that are uncomfortable are a proxy for finding value creating activities that can lead to personal transformation, that works for me. I remember in high school, my dad talked about the importance and the value of higher math because of how hard it was. And I was like, Dad, I think working on a chain gang would build character. Like that doesn't mean it's a good use of time. Mm-hmm. So suffering for the sake of suffering, I don't, at this stage of my life, I don't know, not a huge turn on, but saying that those activities associated with that are likely to cause you to grow and, you know, being selective. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to Clint the other day about morning routines, and I told him that I was using a 5-minute journal, but that, to be honest, I'd gotten off of it. I like felt bad telling him to that because he got it for me. Like I got off of it for a while because I was like, it was just another thing with the morning routine. I'm like, that's like the last thing I need is some other. And he's like, told me, he's like, dude, that's so funny. He's like, me and Jake laugh about that all the time. Like we're doing freaking Wim Hof, and then like all of a sudden your morning routine is like 3 hours long, and you've got like these things you got to do to like make it a great day. Like it's like insane, you know, to a certain degree.
Oh my goodness.
People like us, we can go overboard, bro.
Totally. And it feels like crusader mentality. The other day, dude, somebody reached out and they asked me if I was still doing something that I mentioned that I had done at one point on this show. And it was so funny because I was like, oh yeah, like I did that for a minute. I'm not doing it now. But that's what I love about this conversation is like, this isn't like performance art, you know, like I get uncomfortable being in context or situations where I feel like midway through, I gain the awareness that like I'm engaging in theater or performance to be perceived some kind of way. So
totally. Here's the other thing I think about with this. So I went to an AA meeting recently with a friend, and I don't really go to meetings anymore. And dude, the meeting was so freaking good. I learned like 2 life-changing things. I'm like, dude, I might like work the steps again and go back. Cause like, it's like free therapy where people are actually like honest.
Oh man.
And like, it's free. And now it's on Zoom. Like I didn't even have to leave my house. It was like just so awesome. And the leader's topic was selfishness. And like the thing in AA, it's like when you're drinking, like you're so selfish, like everything's about you. And you think like the world just revolves around you. Right. And like, that's where a lot of suffering comes from. And I was just thinking in my own life, like, where am I being selfish? Like, and then right after that, I was late to take my son and my dog for a walk. I take him for a walk every morning. And then I was like, oh wait, but I got to get my jump roping in. So my son like sat there and watched me jump rope for like 5 minutes while like waiting. He was like watching me and I was like doing it. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like, it's just little things like that. Like, I think my morning routine and things like early on in my life, it was like success at all costs. And it's like, dude, that's such a selfish way to live. It's like, do I really have to hit my morning? Like, so now I'm just really trying, even if I'm not like doing great at it, I'm just trying to take a pause and be like, okay, how could I be 5% less selfish today? Like, okay, I'm going to put my son to bed. I'm going to tell my wife, like, I'll put him to bed tonight, you know, just like little things like that. And maybe that's like the key to happiness and success in life after a certain point. Cause you realize you run yourself ragged and it's like all these extra things, like taking the focus off myself actually gives me some energy.
Dude, being focused on others is incredibly fulfilling. The thing that you said about being success at all costs early in life, that resonates with me. And I think about the way that I rationalized it. The way I rationalized it was like, man, I'm doing this for my family, you know, like at all costs, work all hours, 100 hours a week by any means necessary. Once you get to a point of success where you can't use that as the excuse anymore, you know, like there's no question you're going to be able to pay your bills. I feel like that's where the underpinnings of a good, healthy existential crisis can begin. Because it's like, oh man, I don't have the crutch of just saying like I'm doing this to provide. And I feel like that's what life, I feel like that's kind of what gave some definition to the archetypal differences of the previous generation. Like past generations were kind of like these stoic hard asses because they were just trying to survive. But now it feels like there's just more us experiencing the fruits of previous generations has put us at the loggerheads of a real dilemma because we're having to understand and question what to do with all this bounty that was created.
Yeah, all this freedom and all this easy life. So what is important to us or what we go after has changed, right? It used to be food and just survival. And now it can almost, I think it's overcorrected because now people have too much time on their hands.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't want to go down that hole, but yeah, man, I feel you.
Yeah. Like big topic change there, but so there's that. All right, man. Well, what do you got coming up? What do you got going over the next month? Did we talk about the fact that I'm moving?
No, where are you moving?
I am moving from Austin. I'm going to be in El Paso for a month, and then I'm going to be doing a road show, doing some traveling, and destinations are not fully mapped out, but like to do a little bit of international travel. And what perfect timing, right?
Yeah, right. So wait, road show like a personal with your family or business?
Yeah. No, totally just personal.
Got
with
it.
The family. So we're just up for some adventure. And so we're going to do a number of months of travel and kind of, agenda is not fully mapped out, but the first month we'll navigate the rest from there. So I am focused on that, doing that well. You know, there's like can be a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, totally.
Handle all that. So supporting Sarah with all that, that's like front and center, that and supporting the leaders that are stepping up and really making sure that I am supporting them and giving them everything that they need for me to feel good about holding them fully accountable to what's been laid at their feet. That's what my next month looks like. What do you got coming up?
So I bought a camper. I think I might have told you that, a little pop-up tent trailer.
Ooh, juicy.
Yeah. So we're stoked. We're going camping this weekend. We were going to go to Grand Canyon next month, but the family backed out. So we do have one trip up California coast that we're going to do after that. And yeah, man, I'm just trying on the business front to, like you said, grow leaders. I want to spend most of my time just like thinking and just kind of mapping out the vision and helping them be successful. Like, I don't want to do this on my own. That's my new game. That's lighting me up. It's like, how do I get them in the right position to just make this thing blow up? And yeah, so that's what I'm focused on. More leadership books now.
There we go, baby. John Maxwell, 21 Laws of Leadership.
There you go.
Long list. All right. It's a pleasure, as always. If you were listening from home and you read a fantastic book that moved the needle, please email Steve or I. We'll check it out. We'll give you a shout out. Let's keep the book sharing going.
Love it. Later, Joe.
Bye.